So I just wanted to talk about something a good friend of mine brought up recently. He was like, it's hard to think about the credibility of people who claim to be survivors when they come forward years later. Like, where were they the last 20 years, the last 10 years? Why didn't they say something then? I said, I understand having that question. However, it's so incredibly difficult for survivors to come forward because they're either afraid, they could be still being abused by the person, threatened by the person. They could be facing familial disappointments and pressures, or friends of the abusers, the inner circles that they're worried about those repercussions. And especially if the person's like in the public eye and has a lot of, public presence. So there are so many reasons why survivors don't come forward. And granted, one of the biggest, I think, is that you've already dealt with the trauma. Or maybe you didn't deal with the trauma, but you've already experienced this trauma. And now to go through your life like trying to escape it, whether it's through different relationships or, often we create patterns like addictive behaviors because we're trying to avoid having to look at that trauma any longer. So with that comes more trauma, comes more circumstances that prolong that pain and prolong that surviving the thing. So now we have layers and layers, and it becomes more and more difficult. It prolongs it until you realize often years later, oh my gosh, I can't move on in my life. And looking back, this thing has not only defined me, but it's taken my life away. It has taken years from me. And you get to this point where you're like, I just can't do it anymore. I just can't pretend that it didn't happen. I can't be silent any longer. And so then often it's just because you're trying to honor a part of yourself that is very true and stop robbing yourself of your own feelings and experience around something that you had no control over. That's why people come forward. And another reason that people initially don't say something is because they have fear of not being believed, because we experience so often in systems where there's victim blaming and there's the system is broken and doesn't actually support the survivor at all, or they are not wanting this to be their identity. Like, the last thing you want is to everyone to look at you like, oh, you're the victim, or people have a perception around it. So that's another reason why people don't come forward. So I really just wanted to talk about that today, because I think that once I explained that to him, he was like, wow, I never thought about it like that. And it really helped to give some more understanding and even compassion around why people don't say something. And it's not to not believe them in the time they say it. There's often reasons, and there's very justified reasons as to why they don't come forward initially. So I just wanted to touch on that, just wanted to share, and I hope that this was helpful. And if you are a survivor and you are in need of resources, please reach out. I do offer one-on-one coaching, and if you are in a situation where you need further assistance, shelter, any other resources, I can also provide those for you. So thank you so very much for listening, and I will talk to you soon.